5G is a software-defined network. It means that while it won't replace cables entirely, it could replace the need for them by largely operating on the cloud instead. This means it will have 100 times better capacity than 4G. 5G, a new faster network that has the potential to transform the internet.
5G cell phone towers are slowly popping up around Kern County, but it's leaving some people who live here worried about their health.
And 17's Karen Waugh has traveled around the county trying to find out if you should actually be concerned.
How big of a health concern does 5G actually pose? And are companies putting the lives of residents at risk just for faster wireless service?
In November 2018, a social media post went viral and it suggested that in the Netherlands, 300 birds have died due to 5G testing. Forums are awash with activists suggesting that the dangers of cell phone radiation are being suppressed. So does 5G actually have health effects? Or is it just a conspiracy theory that's getting a little bit out of hand?
For example, to download a 2-hour film on 3G would take about 26 hours. On 4G, you'd be waiting 6 minutes. And on 5G, you'll be ready to watch your film in just over 3.5 seconds. But it's not just internet capacity that will be upgraded. Response times will also be much faster. The 4G network responds to our commands in just under 50 milliseconds. With 5G, it will take around 1 millisecond, 400 times faster than a blink of the eye.
So what is 5G?
Right now, if you were to download a 2-hour movie, it would take maybe a few minutes. With the 5G technology in place, it'd be less than 20 seconds.
What do you say to those people who say we don't need 5G, 4G is enough?
The future's here. I mean, it's not only for our viewing pleasure in movies and things like that, but we start thinking about other technologies like
Self-driving cars, for example, require a continuous stream of data. The quicker that information is delivered to autonomous vehicles, the better and safer they can run. Called network slicing. It's a way of creating separate wireless networks on the cloud, allowing users to create their own bespoke network. For instance, an online gamer needs faster response times and greater data capacity than a user that just wants to check their social media. Yet it's estimated that even by 2025, the network will still lag behind both 4G and 3G in terms of global mobile connections. Its mainstream existence faces multiple hurdles. The most significant of these, of course, is cost. According to some experts, 5G could cause network operators to tear up their current business models for it to make business sense.
Deborah Davis is the president of the Environmental Health Trust and the author of a book called Disconnect: The Truth About Cell Phone Radiation, What the Industry Has Done to Hide It, and How to Protect Your Family. Deborah, thanks for joining us. What is it that the industry knows about cell phones that you say they're not telling us?
Radiation. All of our connected devices emit radio frequency electromagnetic energy of various wavelengths. Low frequency wavelengths are used in, say, powering your smartphones, TVs, and computers. And this is referred to as non-ionizing radiation. It's not considered energetic enough to cause any health effects. On the other side of the spectrum, you have high frequency wavelengths such as ultraviolet radiation from the sun or X-rays. This is a more powerful type of energy and it's known as ionizing radiation. It can rip electrons away from atoms and do some real damage to DNA. And if you're exposed to a lot of this type of radiation, like say some of these beachgoers may be, it can introduce errors into your DNA, causing the growth of diseases such as cancer. Fortunately, 5G radiation is non-ionizing.
And then I began to look at what we knew, or didn't know, or in the United States have preferred not to think about when it comes to cell phone radiation. So I ended up, at the end of the Secret History of the War on Cancer, writing about the world's largest study ever done on cell phone radiation in a population, the Danish Cancer Society study. And that study, of course, finds no risk associated with cell phones and brain cancer, as in fact most studies find no risk associated with cell phones and brain cancer. That study had defined a user as someone who made 1 call a week for 6 months. So it looked at users compared to non-users, and the average use of a cell phone had been about 5 years, and concluded that cell phones were safe, and the headline made it around the world, and it was that headline that made me think cell phones were safe as well. Well, I'm going to show you why, in fact, we don't have such a clean bill of health for cell phones today, and also tell you that there are simple things you can do to protect yourself.
Two of the most frequently mentioned studies are, one, the US National Toxicology Study, and two, a study by Italy's Ramazzini Institute. In both studies, male rats that were exposed to huge amounts of radio frequency radiation sometimes developed cancer in their hearts and in their brains. However, the studies have been dubbed controversial because they feature huge amounts of radiation and exposure that far exceeds what humans would experience, making it much harder to draw conclusions. All that is to say that many of the arguments against 5G are not based in strong scientific fact. Despite that, over 240 scientists and researchers have petitioned the World Health Organization Environment Program to take another look at the damage radio frequency radiation may be having. And not just on humans, but also on the environment.
But right now there are 5 brand new technologies emerging as the foundation of 5G. Millimeter waves.
He's going to talk to us a little bit about what 5G is.
We'll start with a virtualized or a software-based network right from the beginning. Another thing that is really exciting is the usage of millimeter wave technology or the millimeter wave spectrum. And it's a completely new thing that we have never done before.
Millimeter waves. Your smartphone and other electronic devices in your home use very specific frequencies on the radio frequency spectrum, typically those under 6 gigahertz. But there is a catch. Millimeter waves can't travel well through buildings or other obstacles, and they tend to be absorbed by plants and rain. To get around this problem, we'll need technology number 2, small cell networks. Today's wireless networks rely on large, high-powered cell towers to broadcast their signals over long distances. But remember, higher frequency millimeter waves have a harder time traveling through obstacles, which means if you move behind one, you lose your signal. Small cell networks would solve that problem, using thousands of low-power mini base stations. These base stations would be much closer together than traditional towers, forming a sort of relay team to transmit signals around obstacles.
While the requirements for 5G won't be set until at least 2020, 3 principles are emphasized in every evolution of cellular standards: capacity, throughput, and coverage. Small cells will be critical to meeting those 3 requirements. Small cells is an all-encompassing term for low-powered radio access nodes that help provide service to both indoor and outdoor areas. These nodes can work in either licensed or unlicensed spectrum and have a range between 10 meters and 2 kilometers. The purpose of installing small cells is to increase range and capacity in densely populated urban areas that cannot be sustained by macrocells alone. Small cells have defined purposes when it comes to providing end users an improved cellular experience in congested urban areas, increasing capacity in areas with high user densities, improving coverage and available data rates, and extending handset battery life by reduced power consumption.
Next up, technology number 3, massive MIMO. MIMO stands for multiple input, multiple output. Today's 4G base stations have about a dozen ports for antennas that handle all cellular traffic. But massive MIMO base stations can support about 100 ports. This could increase the capacity of today's networks by a factor of 22 or more. Of course, massive MIMO comes with its own complications. Today's cellular antennas broadcast information in every direction at once, and all of those crossing signals could cause serious interference. Which brings us...
For massive MIMO, what I mean here is to have a system where we have 100, say, base station or access point antennas serving, say, 10 clients at the same frequency and in the same time slot. Through the super directive nature of such a large array, this enables us to isolate that particular user spatially with our antenna radiation pattern, and thereby we can implement space division multiple access and reuse the spectrum. This can provide a significant gain in terms of the capacity of our wireless networks, one of the goals of 5G wireless.
To technology number 4, beamforming.
But millimeter wave comes with challenges. Here he's explaining how they've developed beamforming to help stay connected to moving devices.
What beamforming essentially allows you to do is to take the signal and send it towards that customer instead of sending it in every direction. A good analogy would be the difference between a light bulb and a flashlight. With a light bulb, you send the energy in every direction. If you have a 100-watt bulb, why not do it? But if you are a 1-watt flashlight, what you do is you take the same light and you focus it in one direction.
Technology number 5, full duplex. If you've ever used a walkie-talkie, you know that in order to communicate, you have to take turns talking and listening. That's kind of a drag. Today's cellular base stations have that exact same holdup. A basic antenna can only do one job at a time, either transmit or receive. This is because of a principle called reciprocity, which is the tendency for radio waves to travel both forward and backward along the same frequency.
Another technology we're looking at is full duplex. So in a traditional wireless receiver, we use usually a bank of filters to separate the functions of transmit and receive. So the transmitter basically doesn't deafen the receiver. In our work on full duplex communications, we've been using electrical balance isolation to isolate the transmit port from the receive port by providing a balancing impedance in the hybrid that mimics the impedance of the antenna. This is then complemented by the injection of your own transmit signal, which has been equalized to represent what would be leaking in from the antenna port.